MrBeast being the person who I think kind of perfected this new YouTube of kind of creating videos with titles and thumbnails that you cannot help but click on, and then delivering on that outrageous promise in the video itself. So it's not clickbait, it's something else. What is that?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny, like, what I've realized from doing this is that, clickbait is kind of a bad word, because I think traditionally it was used to mean something that's misleading. But, I see that people have different conceptions of what clickbait is, because when I came out and said, like, well, I'm going to have to be a little bit more clickbaity, I hope you guys are okay with that. Then some people were like, yeah, as long as it's accurate, as long as it reflects what's in the video, I don't mind you being a little bit sensational with how you title and thumbnail it. Whereas other people were like, no, that like, if you say clickbait, that automatically means you are not telling us what's going to be in this video. You're faking us out. So yeah, I feel like we need a new word or a new way to differentiate these ideas of, like, what are you doing with your title and thumbnail? Yeah, because I feel like you have to be a little bit, intriguing, or you have to have mystery in the title. Otherwise, you're not going to be as clickable as something that, does have that mystery, or is like, the last person to touch the Lamborghini gets it. So, yeah, how do you play in that world? How do you compete in that world?
I think the clickbait thing is interesting, because I agree with you that I always thought of clickbait as a bait and switch, where the thumbnail has some shocking thing in it, and then you click on it, and the shocking thing is not in the video. It ends up being whatever, just some person drolling on about whatever, and then you're disappointed, and people freak out. But now,
I think that's the way the word was intended.
Right.
Like, that's the original intention of the word, but maybe it's come to be more acceptable or something. I don't know.
I don't know. I think that people like MrBeast are fulfilling the promise of the clickbait, and then it's not clickbait anymore. And I'm wondering if there's something to glean from, like, the magazine world, where you have, like, the cover of the magazine be really, really appealing so that you buy the magazine. As opposed to like a tabloid, where a tabloid is like lying about, like, Jennifer Aniston's crazy weight loss. Does she have this disease? Buy this, piece of trash and find out, when they're just lying. That seems like clickbait in physical form. And then you have a magazine like People or whatever that isn't lying to get you to buy it. I don't know if that makes sense.
I think it's a concept that is super old, that goes back to really like a storefront even, okay? So ideally, whether it's you, Derek, you want somebody who is going to be really into every one of your videos, right? Until you stop making them. That's the ideal thing, is this fan for life. Same with you, Kevin. That's the same thing that a restaurant wants. They want somebody who's going to come in once a week until the end of time. That's the ideal thing. So how do you get them in there? Well, you got to start by getting them in the process, however that is, right?
Getting them in the door.
You got to get them in the door.
Yeah.
And for you guys, it happens to be done with a click. But it's really no different than having a store and saying, well, hey, no matter how great this store is, nobody would even know if they don't walk in the first place.
With the great window dressing. It's the same thing. The
Yeah.
window dressing in a storefront of, like, Macy's or something, where they have the $9,000 dress.
Yeah.
And then they get you in for the rest.
Right. And what MrBeast does so well is that he delivers, like you said. He sets this crazy expectation and then delivers on it. And I think the same process, which we've seen on Vsauce 2 data, where some people subscribe the first time they see a video, right? A lot of them, it takes a few videos. And I was watching this episode of Bar Rescue or something, right? And John Taffer's talking about how it's like 3 tries really at winning over a customer. You've got to get them in, and then a certain percentage aren't going to come back. Then some come back a second time. And then it's the third time really where, like, the hard sale is made. If you make it a great experience on those 3 tries, you're going to have somebody who really likes you and sticks around. And I honestly think of what you guys do in that same way, where the whole thing happens to start with a click. And to get that click, you kind of need to bait it.
I mean, it's interesting to hear you talk about it this way, because the big difference that I've always felt between what we do and other traditional sort of venues, like going into a store, is that, if I want to, visit a store for, I don't know, sporting goods or something, like, there's only so many stores for me to go to. Or, if I want to go for groceries, like, there's a finite number of stores. So I guess the difference between the online YouTube world and the real physical world is, to me, it feels like it's more possible to be aware of the things in the physical world. Like, even if you don't want to go into that store, you kind of know that it exists or whatever, because it's in your local neighborhood. Whereas on YouTube, it's like this infinite sea of potential stores, and most of them never raise to the level of consciousness. So for me, like, this is why I spend so much time obsessing about the algorithm, is because it really is this matter of, how do you find yourself into this sweet spot where you'll actually raise to the level of people's consciousness. You'll actually, have people be aware of you, because that's the biggest thing you need to do in order to get people to watch.
It's like, how do you get on Main Street? Like, if you are a store, you got to be on Main Street, or else nobody will find you. You can't just be like on Pluto. They'll never find you out there.
I think what you're saying about the algorithm mattering to you, I think that fits too with kind of that restaurant example where somebody needs to eat there a couple times, right? If the algorithm isn't playing nicely with your content, somebody's not going to be served a second video of yours so that you can follow up and say, hey, remember me? This one's good too, and get them to subscribe and buy in at that point, or a third one. And so the better your videos play on the actual website like that, the more likely it is somebody has a chance to recognize your quality and then sign up for more.
Yeah, and that's the game.